Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in once again on a great viewer question that is to kind of get clear a little bit more about identifying some of the symptomology or the symptoms or destructive effects that you have experienced in a relationship, and to kind of identify that, the cause, the root cause, and then how does that sort of circle back to kind of a personal injury, an emotional injury, a sort of hit to a blow to your ego, so to speak, after you've suffered, a relationship with someone who is narcissistic, someone who has a pathological sense of self-importance, coupled with a lack of empathy, and then sort of and focusing on sort of the destructiveness, or what is the cause, namely that of what you might consider, there's a spectrum of all sorts of personality types, etc. But there's a problem with narcissists is that they sort of have a sense of entitlement, superficiality, grandiosity, or feeling that they're unique or special and shouldn't be subject to undergo other specific things that quote-unquote normal people would have to go through. In other words, they don't feel that they're actually one of the sheep. They're not one of the people. They feel that they're sort of separate, distinct, and set apart, or, that they're distinct therefrom. And then because of this, they believe that they deserve specific special treatment, which oftentimes is a high expectation that has nothing to do with reality or other things that they've actually done to earn it, and sort of like these unreasonable or pressurized expectations, where they sort of, will sort of mistreat other people, treat other people as underlings when they are not that, just sort of have this sort of superficial. In other words, everything is sort of based on the outside in, how things look, versus like how things feel. And it might make you very uncomfortable, but you might put up with this sort of feeling that something isn't sort of genuine or concrete. And so you get a feeling of sort of rockiness or instability or paranoia or fear in the relationship, because the narcissist, if things do not sort of come according to their how they want their ego to be perceived, they take this as a real hit or a threat, or sort of a narcissistic injury, what you might consider a narcissistic injury, meaning that they feel threatened by something. In other words, their meal didn't work out. They take this as a personal blow. Don't you know who I am? You can't do this to me. I want the manager. Where's the business owner? I want the, I'm going to get my lawyer. Whatever it is, all of a sudden they're acting very high and mighty. And this can be a source of embarrassment for other people in their family when they sort of, start going off into this sort of demanding, eloquently, being very demanding, or, sort of eloquently demeaning others in the process. Hey, little sugar plum, pinch, pinch, why don't you get me this? Just using certain things that sort of give, a sense of entitlement that's based on very superficial things. So in other words, being very flirtatious, a spouse at a party, things that, might win them ego points and make them look good, or what might be expected for that sort of personality, when underneath it sort of betrays a sense of meaning or loyalty, or of sort of principled sort of behavior, if you will. The narcissist is very unprincipled when it comes to what they think that they deserve. To them, the world is their oyster. Everything should go their way. They shouldn't put up with this, or, they shouldn't have to work on specific things, or everyone else should have to do such and such for them, and, do all the work, that you might consider mundane, or they sort of bow out of, that they don't have the energy, the time, or it's not worth their dollar value. So like, an attorney who's like, well, only my time is only worth like $3,000 an hour, so I'm not going to take my kids to the baseball game because time's a-ticking and this is money and I've got more important fish to fry than to watch you slug around at a t-ball. You know, and these are the people who you see like at an ice cream store, and the men are wearing like a cashmere suit and like fully dressed up, and you're like, yeah, your kids are like toddlers and you're at getting ice cream and you're looking like you're about to go to a board meeting, you know, for your company, sir. I mean, they kind of treat others as if they're employees or as if they work for them. This is a very sort of demeaning role to feel, as if you're subservient, as if you're less than. And this isn't oftentimes said, it's more communicated. You know, the covert narcissists, they just sort of remain aloof, indifferent. Aloof meaning just sort of, they're not really there. They're just sort of silent. They're sort of moody. They're shut down, shut out, in a world of their own, in their ivory tower, in their mad scientist basement, wherever it is that they feel that they need to go and sort of cultivate a sort of, once again, it's a feeling that they don't need to undergo certain things and that they have a sort of carte blanche, a blank check to just behave any way that they want and get away with it. And maybe money can fix it, maybe their lawyer, maybe the papers, or maybe their sisters or whoever. You know, no one tends to challenge these people because they have actually a very frail ego, meaning if they start to feel normal or sick, they feel that they're less than. So they get a very uncomfortable feeling, I think, when these things occur. They just don't feel like that superficial part of them is being reflected. And so a lot of people, in the name of love, they try to get all superficial. Oh, well, yeah, it'll be great. I can just, you know, throw my career out the window and stay up late and do whatever, or I can betray my own principles and values and, you know, not receive what I need for myself, and just say, yeah, other people are more important, and just people then, you know, have this sort of ingrained feeling of low self-esteem, or that they're sort of objectified by these people. In other words, they don't have a sense of commitment or responsibility. They can be very sort of commitment-phobic when it comes to things like raising kids, feeling inadequate there. Maybe there's a lack of a role model, and so, or the role model was off the end on other ways, like more extreme, you know, social rather than family. So, you know, a superficial, you know, the parents are having a big cocktail party, and you've got all sorts of maybe bartenders showing up, or they're pouring the drinks or whatever it is, and then the kids are running around, and it's sort of, you know, in other words, they're just sort of told that, you know, oh, maybe they've got hired help and, you know, take care of them. And meanwhile, or the kids are running around these parties and they're not sort of included. They're not very child friendly, and they're sort of barred out. In other words, they're relinquished to their bedroom upstairs, and they might smell wine or smoke or whatever music is going on there, or all the adult talk, and know that they're not included and that they're not wanted. See, other people pick up a message from the superficiality of the narcissist when it seems to be like their most redeeming thing. In other words, why would you challenge so-and-so about this? Because that's what makes them them. You know, in other words, so everybody, it's like an unspoken code. Oh, you don't ever address them by this. You don't snap your gum. You don't say no. You don't do this. I mean, you're following their rules, and oftentimes it is exploitative or unfriendly or unempathetic, sort of not giving other their principle, meaning a certain, we're talking about a sort of right versus wrong, a certain morality, where the superficial sort of is in place of the meaningful or present, or certain things that might be needed or necessary. So like truthfulness or fidelity from a spouse, having, you know, so superficiality, or in the workplace. In other words, if there's someone who's very superficial and all they want are the awards, they want to be at the top of the email chain, the top of the whatever. I mean, these are people who come in wanting the limelight, the orange light, the green light, the red light, whatever it is, they want the light, and they want to make sure that the light is not on anybody else. So, and it's a very sort of brainwashy effect when these, they can come along oftentimes like very much a champion, but being a champion means them devaluing others. In other words, sort of taking others in a very, looking at them as sort of as if they're objectified, meaning specific things, and that they can just sort of sweep them away. Okay, I'm done with you. And then, or certain commitments, in other words, empathy, compassion, being there when it isn't on their agenda or it doesn't maybe look good. Dealing with certain issues within the family. They feel that they should be above it. Dealing with certain things in the relationship. I don't have time with it. I'm above this. I don't believe in that. You should be so lucky to have. And so it's all these back and forth statements. And then people then get sort of brainwashed and they're sort of taking a surrogate sense of love or a really negative experience from that relationship because it doesn't validate or mirror back something more deep or meaningful or sustaining for the long term. So other people get caught up then in a confusion, wondering why, not me, wondering why they didn't get the attention. Why didn't you spend time with me then? Or why did you betray me? Or why did you betray the business? Or, why does this always take over our calendar and we can't talk about other things? So in other words, there's always this sort of superficiality where they'll sort of feel that they're above and beyond, which for a lot of people, maybe, oh, this is very refreshing. Oh, wow, they can score great dinner tickets, or they've got a great pool, or they've got a better, whatever. It does not matter, but sometimes people try to look at them and then think that there's something, that they will then gleam off their being special, when in fact those people will then sort of dupe you or dump or really sort of tend to resent other people who are around them if it doesn't meet their supply level. So in other words, they're moody. They will go up and down. It's an ego injury. Oftentimes, which is on the superficial, which other people end up paying the price for or feeling responsibility. So this oftentimes is an emotional or physiological, meaning kinesthetic or held in the body, sort of injury, hurt, wounds, or, an emotional injury, hurt your feelings. I mean, that, that's a certain thing, but there's a certain woundedness that takes place as a result of this sort of very extreme superficiality, the entitlement. In other words, they don't feel that they have to work through certain things, that they don't have to take responsibility, that they don't, and they can be very cheap sometimes, even though they might have a lot of money, they're going to split the bill, even though it's like, yeah, we just did this and this, and then, they'll very, sort of strange things. But namely, it doesn't reflect back. How does the narcissistic injury affect other people? In other words, if they're having a bad day, why should you have a bad day? If they're being superficial and caught up with all that pressure, why should you be caught up in the same pressure? You don't have to have a sense of connection or belonging with a pathologically, dysfunctional way of having a lifestyle or a relationship, or what they sort of hold as their standards or values. Because oftentimes these relationships can be lacking just that. There's a certain value, a certain principle, a certain warmth, a cord that can't be broken, a certain trust, a certain sense of reliability. And so that, how does that superficiality figure in? In other words, because it can make others feel less than. In other words, these are the people who, they don't have to work, or they don't have to do a specific type of work, or they don't have to do a specific, it's too mundane. It's, it's beyond them. And so they will just sort of feel, or, put others in a position which are sort of shocking or uncomfortable, and others are just supposed to just deal with it. These are the people who, show up at the door half naked for the Amazon guy. and, you know, or girl is, you know, or whoever, and it's just certain inappropriate things, but they just see what they can get away with things because. They can ask for this and this just because. And, you know, a lot of people might, hey, that's really cool that they have this, or look up to them. But yet, on the flip side, there's another part of the coin, which is that of a lack of empathy or avoidance in the part of the narcissist. In other words, they're very wanting to sort of avoid specific type of experiences. Put it off, procrastinate, not get involved, not sort of have a sort of meaningful tradition or substance that they have in their life. In other words, these people can be unprincipled, meaning that they don't stand for anything. They, yeah, you know, I'll get a free this, I'll take a free that, yeah, I can scam this or scam that, and they just sort of continue riding that wave. They might feel that, you know, a sense of entitlement. In other words, because this, then I, and it's just sort of, they set themselves above and beyond. And they might have extraordinary abilities, yes, but it doesn't mean that they should exhibit a lack of empathy or a lack of presence to people who are, you know, around them, or in other words, have this sort of competitiveness, or oftentimes what is a sense of insecurity or really jealousy for the other people. These narcissists tend to actually resent. They begin to resent the other people in their life because they feel maybe that they need them and they don't want them. So these are the people then who discover years later and go, oh, I finally got what you're talking about. Like, you know, you want to have a family, you want to save together, you want to get a vacation, you want, you know, for our kids and the kids to have this or whatever. And then they circle back and then they try to, you know, but no, because it does not work. The ship has already sailed. It's long gone, and you're going to miss the architectural tour because they're still going to be getting into the penthouse. What cigar can they get? How cool? What parties? And these are your people who are, you know, even later into life, you know, 50s, 60s, still getting into trouble, still going to these parties, staying up to all night. You know, they have a sort of, and it might be their type of lifestyle, but it's oftentimes unhealthy and exploitative and hurtful, harmful, and destructive to those people around them. And oftentimes the narcissist doesn't really get it until many years or decades later. And then they go, oh, you know, I see why I was sort of being really resistive in specific situations, because they are inadequate, but they don't want to own it. They don't want to own their inadequacy. They don't want to own or be told something what to do. You know, these are your business owners who move, you know, and spend all this money in the high rise, $400,000 a month, and, you know, they're not yet, you know, breaking profit, you know, but they don't want to hire a business consultant because they want to be the one and only, the trust fund baby. They feel insulated, immune, like a bubble, or they can get away with it. These are your people who, you know, they actually try, and they can be very risk takers. For some people, a lot of fun. But you know what? When it comes to them maturing, oftentimes they really tend to not have a problem, and they never grow up. These are the people who are, you know, still trying to flirt, you know, age 50 and 60, still trying to pick someone up at the party, pinchy, you know, this or that. And it's like, really, you're still, you know, really, or other just sort of risky behaviors that don't make sense. You know, going on families and leaving the kids with a nanny. Really, you know, you're not taking your kids. You're trying to take some, you need some time to decompress from your kids. And you're just, you know, are you kidding me? You know, and then they have their nanny raise their kids, and then a tutor, a paralegal, whatever that they have teaching these kids. You know, they're going to have an architect, you know, come in and teach them how to make a little shelter in their yard. I mean, these are your people, you're like, are you kidding me? You're not even playing with your kids. You're not going on vacation, and you're going to pass them off. and you're going to wonder why your kids are not listening to you, disrespecting you, and don't have a sense of connection because you've treated them like a pawn and you just handed them off to somebody and they don't know who you are. These are your people who, take them on vacation and then they're whining. You should be so lucky to take a vacation, you're 14, 15, 20, or a family vacation, and the kids are all, not listening and they want candy I want Mimi. I want Mimi. Well, here's Mommy. No, I want Mimi. Daddy? You want Daddy? No, Mimi. Mimi who puts me to bed. Mimi who makes my sandwich. When Mimi is your tutor or your nanny, and then you're trying to take your kids and they're asking, no, I don't want to talk to you. Mimi. Now you've got a new problem. You've just created a whole new problem. Your superficiality, your specialness, you've got a whole new problem. You're wondering why that kid is then acting out. You're wondering why then other people don't want to be the supply after all. They don't want to put up and shut up. They're they're sick of not being treated fairly. They're sick of trying to always impress. The narcissists, they end up, being very comfortable with people who they don't have to impress. But these are the people who they kick around like a soccer ball, swing you in the net. Yeah, I gold one. Yeah, see you later. Good game. In other words, they don't have a certain security, in sort of a stability that they have gained by working through certain things. In other words, they're very uncomfortable looking at certain things. All people can be uncomfortable looking and dealing with certain things, especially if they don't feel they have the knowledge. Like, how do I deal with this plumbing issue? Or how do I deal with the language if I don't know how to speak it? Or how do I do math if I don't really know how to deal with this in QuickBooks? So there might be some learning, but the narcissist doesn't feel like they should, when it comes to certain relationship, they have an attachment issue, which meaning they don't feel a sense that they have to sort of show up in a role model, sort of principled way. In other words, I'm beyond that, and you are too, as far as we're concerned. But for a lot of other people, that is not sustainable. You can't live treating other people and leaving superficial lives like that. That's a semi-charmed life. Whoever said that, it's something like you've got a drumstick, but you don't got the drum. I mean, it doesn't have that real bass to it. It's missing something. It's too tangy. It's too metally. You're just basically like a hanger to them to basically rub coats with, and that's about it. They don't want to have, they sort of feel above meaningful communication and just from anybody and anything, whether it's dealing with someone in a customer service, in the store, dealing with other people, and especially then the other people who are close to them. In other words, the other people who happen to be their neighbor, their spouse, their children, their work partner, end up getting no end of the stick because these people will control others through their moody behavior. It is a way to control others. In other words, so others can just begin to, basically will have to deal with a lack or an absence or that aloofness. But the problem with this sort of superficiality, and then the impact it has in others is that it's really on a real sort of emotional or physiological level. In other words, then they don't have that principle to look up to, that mentor. So like in the book that I'm talking about, it's so important to have a mentor, who is, in other words, who has seen this. But getting back to that issue, you see, because the narcissist can so easily vacillate or between sort of groups and situations, that they expect the same of others, that they, can, that they don't need a certain things, whether it takes patience, whether it takes listening, whether it takes empathy, which means learning about another, even though they are different. And maybe there's nothing in it for you, but it could just be, you know, something that someone else needs, but you're not, you know, really suffering for giving somebody, in other words, but it's an over-perception on that part. And so it can cause a lot of problems. They don't want to admit or look at certain things. So, like, what is the cause of this? I think a lot of people ask, you know, and they want to sort of focus on that behavior. Well, you know, and you know, a lot of people want to then protect the narcissist, which is a problem. They want to shield the narcissist from certain hurts or wounds or dealing with certain things. And that becomes a double whammy problem where, oh, you know, you can continue to just get away with this. You know, in other words, for example, let's just take a look at very impressionable, like children are very impressionable. Newlyweds, they're very impressionable. So let's just start with children, in a superficiality in that relationship. So what would that look like? In other words, you know, they're rushing around in the morning. They're trying to get only their stuff done, their agenda, their appointments, their phone calls, and someone else is there to attend to them, or they're left alone. And the kids are very impressionable. They have specific needs, guidance, someone to be there. Even, you know, they in other words, you know what? You can't quite throw them out in the yard and expect them to milk a cow, roll some cereal grains, tap a tree for their maple syrup, and expect them to get some organic wheat growing out in the back. You know, your expectations are completely unmatched to who that child is. So there's oftentimes these very unrealistic expectations. And kids pick up on this. In other words, you're giving them a sense of inadequacy, and then you're teaching them that it's condition-based, that their love is condition-based, based on something that they're doing. And then your relationship is only based on that behavior. And then if that behavior cannot be continued for some reason, then they're no longer good. I mean, your relation, it's kind of like you're fired. You know, you're kind of like not good enough. And that is the message. That is the message that you are sending your kids, is that you are not worth my time. You are not worth attending to. I have got better things to do, like in the morning or the evening. Like let's say you need to consume, have food together or play together. Or just, leaving kids to their own wiles, just very hands off. I've got better things to do than, teach you about how to glue, stars to paper and making yourself a rainbow with fairies dancing. There's someone else who can do those little things with you. I've got to book a meeting and, I've got a big law meeting that I've got to do or whatever. So in other words, it creates this emotional distance and resistance. Children are very impressionable. It will send them a message that they will very, very much hold and attach onto, which is a sense of themselves, in that they are not worth the presence of a role model or their very own flesh and blood, or their very own supervisor, or their manager, their teacher. You can have a narcissistic teacher. That's a terrible thing. When they only want to focus on the kids who look a certain way, have a specific smile, popularity, or something, and then people who really need the attention don't get it. They get the bad grades, then the kids, aren't attended to as much. Or, not called on because it might not make the teacher look good. So they don't call on them, whether it's sports, whether it's reading class. And it's all about them looking good. They don't want to look as if they have to learn something. Or if they do, they're going to be doing it at the bar. Well, let's just talk about this at the bar or the captain's club or the cigar lounge, or we're just talking about this at Macy's cafe or, you know, there's always, in other words, they just can't come, they can't be spiritually naked with you. They just can't lay it all out. They are very timid. In fact, they don't, because they don't even know themselves. That's the problem, is that the narcissist it's so far repressed. It's why it becomes like a real issue for other people, but it becomes a problem from the narcissist when people are like, you know what? I'm not going to take this anymore. I've been pawned off too many times. I've been betrayed. Our date has been called off for something else. Or, you know, they were very grumpy with me, and this is supposed to be our date that we're looking for, or whatever, you know, because they always have to be the center of attention. It becomes really old after a while until you really learn this, and you go, you know what, I'm just as well being strong and stable and being without you, because otherwise you, other people in those situations, you are teaching them very bad manners, very bad lessons, very bad interpersonal behaviors. In other words, you're teaching them to frown on either a type of work, a type of experience, a type of time. You know, you're frowning on whether it's taking care of a home, learning about emotions, doing the everyday, like cleaning up a fry pan yourself, or not, you know, not drinking just because you're learning. It doesn't mean you get to, you know, or you had a hard time, and so you get to drink vodka starting out the day in the morning. And then so your spouse is showing up drunk at 10 a.m. or to the business meeting, and they're flying off on some sort of alcohol or drugs, and then they just got their own contract because they're so belligerent. You know, they're superficial. You know, talk to the Rolex. You know, talk to the diamond stud you know, necklace. You know, talk to the hand is basically what they're gonna do. You know, they push around their title. Da, 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 you know, and that's the lifestyle. That is the lifestyle, okay? It's like a lifestyle brand. I'm very interested in marketing. Oh boy, here we go off tangent, but I'm very interested in like marketing and lifestyle brands. And so, you know, I was, and just to be on a little bit of a tangent on the superficiality, that kind of disturbs me when, you know, I remember working in college, and I worked at I worked at the library cafeteria at my university, where I was like serving professors and all the grad students their lunch. That was an experience. But otherwise, I did have, while studying, I did have a job at a retail store. I think it was in a men's, like a men's anchor store where the men get like their dress clothes or their sport clothes and things like that. And I remember John Cougar Mellencamp came into the store, and I just missed him, but that would have been so cool. But anyway, I had a lot of interesting experiences at the register. You'd have all these people showing up during the holidays or what have you. I've got to outbuy my husband for the kids. You know, he just got them X, Y, and Z with his salary, and meanwhile, I look like I'm getting them tiddlywinks. And who am I to listen to now in the family, because we're getting a divorce and he's got the cash, and so he can lay out whatever it is that they want. Their summer camp, he can purchase their travels, he can purchase whatever it is, a blow-up dollhouse for their backyard, whatever he can do, and then the other person looks inadequate. So it's by virtue of that, and then the parent is just like, yeah, that's why I'm better, because, you know, your mom doesn't quite get it, you know, or, you know, it looks like they try to sort of pin the whole on other people, as if they try to make others, if they're just like emotional Swiss cheese. That is not the case. So the problem then is then, they sort of, it's the old pass the buck, and as if, you know, money talks and everyone should listen. The problem is when people conform, and then they become corrupted by that lack of principled action. And that can become a very unsustainable way of life. Certain businesses, that might fly, you know, take it show business, the music business, Hollywood, Los Angeles, finance industry, Wall Street. I mean, you're going to get really some really serious hubs and communities that are built on lifestyle. Like, what I'm interested, though, is lifestyle of brands. And I was circling back to I was vegetarian. But anyway, so it would always, it would shock me. And I always thought it was so tragic. Not just sad, but it can be tragic what narcissists do to young, impressionable souls, or how they wreak financial havoc to other people, send them in chaos, and all this suffering, emotional problems, you know, feeling that they're not good enough just because of an erroneous mirroring of the narcissist. So we're talking about here on videos, and I want to sort of circle back to this as part of the mirroring. In other words, where is the narcissist wound that you've got stored in your body? If we could draw that picture of the body once again, like the guy, you know, on the ground that had, you know, like if you could remember the picture of the body. And if we could take the picture of that, and then that mirroring for lack of empathy. So in other words, when someone mirrors back to you a lack of empathy or superficiality or entitlement, what does the behavior look like and how does it feel? So and that lack of empathy, so circling back, because it is unprincipled, and that is the problem with the superficiality, because it eventually becomes sort of corrupted, or there's a certain fiber or foundation to relationships that empathy brings. We're getting really deep here, I know. Okay, I'm sorry. We got to figure this out. Lifestyle brands, I know we're so into it, you guys. You know, lifestyle meaning a brand or a type of like veganism can be a lifestyle brand. In other words, we believe in helping like sustainable farming or reaching You know, there's a lifestyle, meaning that there's something woven into it. So a lifestyle can also be part of people's like narcissistic or psychopathic relationships. And we've defined those in previous videos. But it creates kind of like a lifestyle brand, if you will, with these. In other words, there's a whole lifestyle that is sort of encapsulated or just sort of, you know, the word that is sort of encompassed within it. There is sort of, but it's a problematic sort of tension. But, you know, if you're dealing with empathy or superficiality, meaning, you know, so in other words, what is superficial? I'm too busy for you. When it's communicating, you're not worth the time of day. In other words, they're too busy to say hi to you at the office. They're too busy for your father to say hi. They need to go get a drink. They need to go get a coffee. They need to go get a drug. They need to go shoot up. They need to go get porn, gamble, make a business deal. You know, there's a lot of things that actually you can tell by the way their behavior that they are aloof, which means they're sort of not available. Meaning, and it's more the sort of, because there's a certain fantasy sort of, I don't need to deal with you. You know, that should be better handled by somebody else. In other words, I'm more important. Or they have these unrealistic expectations that you shouldn't need empathy, that you shouldn't need guidance, that you shouldn't need love and compassion, that you shouldn't need warmth, that you shouldn't need the truth, that you shouldn't, you know, all these different things. And so, like Steady Pace here, she says, the narcissist wants to keep you emotionally starved, but at the same time, they don't want to lose their convenient scapegoat, so they'll throw you a breadcrumb occasionally to keep you trauma bonded to them. In other words, even though there's a lack of presence, there's some other reward that is going to be part of the relationship that you're going to get. It's either they're going to throw you a gift. They're going to throw you an invite. They're going to throw you a hug. They're going to throw you an emoji. They're going to throw you a breadcrumb when you need to know how to make the bread. In other words, it's completely inappropriate their meaning or what they dedicate their time for. They can be very unprincipled people, despite the fact that they can have huge bank balances, huge companies. They can exploit the land. They can cause other people to take the brunt of it. In other words, just give them, $15 an hour, $20 an hour. Well, I deserve the whole kit kat and caboodle of the kingdom. And I don't care if they're starving or if this and this, that's just how the business runs. That's just business. It's always been that way. So these excuses, superficial, it's always been that way. That's just, and oftentimes it can be, they can try to make the suffering of the relationship enviable. In other words, as if, you didn't quite make the cut and that's too bad, when there's nothing further from the truth. It's the problem with the lack of empathy. So lack of empathy, in other words, where does it show up? I'm too busy for you. They're looking away. They don't have the time. They're just not there. Or they're kind of taking over your room, your objects. So they're the people who might sort of, like a possessive man might just sort of come and maybe take a hold of women just too low on the body, communicating not that they're friendship, but it's a little bit condescending, treating someone like a lady and then sort of treating them like a lady or like their lady. If you're good enough, lucky enough, or if you work hard enough. In other words, there's these coy messages that are built in. Bring me a this, bring me a that, send me a this, and then that little this could maybe go to more of that. In other words, there's this sort of fantasy, grandiosity, superficiality woven in. Here's 100, take that. Or versus, some sort of meaningful thing. Yeah, they can really maybe give that to other people when it is warranted, but there is a problem when it creates a wedge or a division or a sort of entitlement, which the result is exploitation of other people, objects, or things. So who feels that they have the audacity to dump all sorts of toxins in a clean riverway, killing off fish? Who has the audacity to feel that they can just burn millions of acres of Amazon just so that they can illegally herd cattle and make cattle a commodity? As if there wasn't, natural, who cares if they extinguish irreplaceable species by the dozens a day? Who cares if they wipe certain flowers or trees off the map? Who cares if they destroy the whole ecosystem of a globe? Who cares if they won't? They don't care. They're looking at the bottom line. What is at the bottom line for the superficial? Yachts, steak, clothes, bigger houses, more girlfriends, bigger homes, bigger steaks, personal trainers, personal custom cars. Well, they are, to the cost of what other. Do you see? And then these are the people who have the nerve to not spend time with certain others in their family. Just send them away to boarding school. I found that was a very difficult thing. And we're getting back to where you had it, in the body. Because lack of empathy, what is the behavior? Yeah, we're going to ship you off to a boarding school because we're too busy, to raise a family. So kids who are going to boarding school out east, as if their high school education is not adequate, and then they have to become adults too soon. Give them, a lot of, hey, that might have the best education that money can buy. It might have done very well for them, but there's certain other problems as well. A certain pressure that is put on people, which is a result of lack of empathy. It puts a certain absence or pressure, which cause a cellular harm. It's a emotional wound, if you will, which is very difficult to cite versus like, oh man, I fell on the ice and I broke my arm, and then, you know, but you can have like broken concentration, broken focus, broken happiness. You know, that's very difficult to show, you know, or speak about, and let alone heal with. And beyond that, though, so the superficial meaning, they feel that they can get out of. I don't have to tell you the truth. I don't have to tell you where I've been. I don't have to come clean about this. And then they'll usually project it all onto others, meaning, you know, you're this, or, you know, they'll usually project their own inadequacies onto others. So it's a sort of defense mechanism. It's a way for them to protect their own frail self. But getting back to that. So children, and, you know, newlyweds or, you know, formal, are very impressionable. And so if they don't feel that certain, you know, emotions or experiences need the presence of an older caregiver that is there, who, you know, in other words, who is going to be there for the long run, if they don't feel that stability, that is, you're basically seeding a whole meadow then of instability in different things to come back, which will kind of create an upset, if you will, in that soil, if you will. So in other words, because of that specific type of being superficial, what is the byproduct is what I really want you to understand. And what does it do? You know, so a lot of people, we have a lot of people who have a lot of these issues. We're the recipient of these issues. So we're talking really about those who need to heal from this and realizing why there is this hurt or woundedness or feeling of being stuck. Because if you have formidable relationships where you've been very impressionable and did not have certain discourse relationships, or weren't able to have a secure attachment to a father figure, a role model, a mother figure, or have that like really through and through, that cause this up and down dynamic for then others to then be of the superficial. You know, use money for relationships, use sex when they can't communicate, use money when they can't form relationships. Like, it causes a whole host of things, which is the problem. Maybe not for them, but also it does eventually become a problem for them, because eventually they aren't full. They feel empty inside. So then, so I'm just sort of regrouping here about that. What does the superficiality look like? And you know, and maybe you've got it, but, or it's like, you know, you were there at a party and they gave you a sneer look, or they were not there. People, you know, hold on to this experience. So especially, they hold on to it because it holds some sort of meaning. And it's really quick, like in a flash or an instant, I am not lovable, might be the message. Meaning, I am, if you to a child do not give eye contact, warmth, there's been all sorts of studies that have been done in places, I think it was in Mexico, where they did a study in the convent where they had a number of children who were foster children, and those children who were left without attention, which means being, you know, picked up, smiled, he, goo, 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 ga, 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 you know, that touch, that learning behavior, that presence. They didn't have that touch. We're not talking about, you know, getting them, you know, a trike, a tricycle, or getting them the cutest outfit or whatever else. You know, we're talking about a relationship. We're talking about a human being, giving them eye contact, and then reflecting back. You know, that same thing, like the baby's going like this, and then the parent's going like this, you know, and then if the kid's going like this and the parent's not, giving them a no look, an empty look, or a look of like, I can't deal with you right now, that children, boom, break of trust. It breaks like a stick. It will cut like a knife. It'll be there then circulating in their digestive system what they just took in and processed emotionally. But the problem is that they don't process it right then and there. It's going to simmer and it's going to stew, you know, for a very, very long period of time. It's going to marinate within them. And it's going to create a very tender spot, which is an emotional wound, but it'll continue to be there. And they will attract then similar situations, which will then mirror this lack of respect until they get a grip on the why people that are acting out. And as a problem, you know, so kids, and then the narcissists wonder why they have a dysfunctional family, why their siblings don't communicate with each other, why there's battles, why there's fighting, why there's financial issues, why there's, you know, no one communicating, coming to, you know, you've got marriages that are on different continents, different parts of the country that are just disjointed, dysfunctional, and, you know, and it becomes really, I find it very tragic that people, you know, like that, like I was telling you when I was working at that place during the Christmas in my college for that one Christmas. And I felt it was so tragic that this woman felt, she's like, I have to take out another credit card. And I think I had to run a credit card application. She's like, I need to get more for so-and-so and so-and-so because I just found out my husband just got such and such. You know, I find that so totally tragic that a woman, anyone would feel that sort of pressure or stress to try to impress another who had been so tragically wounded in one way or another through this sort of disparity, competitiveness, or superficial show of power. So, you know, the superficial, you can think about it for what it is. It's everything on the outside, but that can also cause biases. You know, judgment on people where judgment, in other words, you know, you might judge, let's just say someone who is a custodian, you know, but then you find, you know, talking to them at the end of the day and they speak to you through broken English. You know, my father is that which is above. I come to this country and all I have is this, and I love this country and I love, you know, and they're speaking and you feel their heart pouring out to you, and they're saying, you know, I have so much. I come to this country and I have, you know, this, and they're talking about their passion, or they're going like this, which is coming down, and they're just doing this body language, and you just want to cry, and you just want to go, amen, and you think, man, I respect that guy. So what if he's making 5 cents an hour? That guy is pushing that garbage thing with a dream and a passion, and he's got something going on within. That guy is filled up within, you know. That's the kind of person who has compassion. Oh, you work too hard, you funny lady. You work too hard. You're working hard now. You know, everyone else is gone. You still working. Why you still working? Yeah. You know, and you're right. Why am I still working? 6:15, I should be done with this. And you're wiping, you know, you realize you're killing yourself for something. And then that guy had empathy, man. What a great guy, you know. And he tells you, you know, so you gotta take a breather. You gotta, in the body. Okay, we're gonna wrap it up here. I mean, so in other words, you know, lack of empathy, in other words, we talk here on the channel about the healing and the tools, and we're gonna do like a little exercise right now. Because usually that's superficial. The narcissist, they've got a crown, whatever it is that they're wearing, the Rolex, the, you know, 6-carat diamond, the bigger Mercedes, the bigger record contract than you, or whatever. You know, there's a lot of people, a lot of narcissists oftentimes don't embrace others in their industry because they're so competitive, and they dislike others. They hate either other artists or other entertainers or whatever, but usually it's because they don't want to look at specific things within themselves, and that would be the one thing that would set you free when it's not that scary, but the fear has been blown up to such a degree, and their lack of empathy is so pervasive that they have a difficult time processing it. But we're talking now about really what its effect on you and your I am. So if you've been with a narcissist who's hoity-toity, too cool for school, they got more bags and shoes than they do, and they're singing the blues, and they have everybody else singing the blues, but you don't have the shoes. You know, they're trying to dump on you, and you're expected to sort of pick them up all the time. It's one of those, you know, gangster sort of relationships. I mean, and I'm so sorry. You know, overwhelmed and concerned, you know, all these tactics and antics. You know, there's something in the news today, you know, about, you know, antics of the narcissist. You know, antics literally are like at the ant level. In other words, grow up, you know, stop with the manipulation and trying to control others, you know, but that's where the superficial is at. It looks. That's their go-to. But anyway, so if you are with this narcissist, you will lack an I am reflection back. I am safe. I am lovable. I am belonging. I am me. I am acceptable. I am smart. I am going to make it. Life is trustworthy. I am trustworthy. I am lovable. So all these different things that when you have empathy and you're able to basically, someone is able to share your feelings and not be threatened, either to support or acknowledge the positive. Oh my gosh, you're such a great writer. You know, you're such a great listener. You're so patient, you know, or you're so kind, or other things. You know, your I am is going to be hurt or suffering. You're going to feel a sense of instability or anxiety. Paranoia, you know, that is where there is something missing. So the narcissist has a specific anxiety because they're unable to tap into a specific role model that is fueled and positioned by that lack of empathy, because that's not how they feel that they can get where they're going. So that's a whole nother discussion. But if you have not had that reflected back, in other words, either as a child, if you did not have that, and we talked about the study with the nuns. In other words, those children who were not picked up, I don't want to say coddled, but I want to say cuddled, touched, kept warm. But, you know, those other infants, they basically perished and died, even though they were given food. If they were not given the warmth and attention, there are studies like this that are also echoed throughout, like other studies in the animal kingdom, like through when they study monkeys, or, you know, who do their mates go to? The nurturing monkey, or do they want to go to the wire monkey with the food? So there's all sorts of interesting studies, but I really think it loops together and ties together with the reflection back of the I am, because it's so threatening to the narcissist to be leveled, to be eye to eye to people, even though you think that would be really desirable, you know, to be level with people and to be able to spill your guts sometime and be human, and that other people get it, and that it's there's an interdependence, and otherwise it's back and forth. Sometimes it's you, it's me, sometimes it's us, sometimes we, you know, and that's, sometimes it takes work, but then you get through it. I mean, that's what strength and stability is it's knowing it is always going to be there no matter what. The narcissist does not communicate that stability. They're not going to be there no matter what. They don't want you to feel that. That is their illusion. That's their fantasy. They always want you to be desiring and wanting. So if they can always kind of keep you just not knowing a little bit of a lie, a little bit of a scapegoat, a little bit of a projection, will take away from your I am and your strength. So even if it's been maybe in, you know, I am attractive. We have a lot of people who maybe have had, either long-standing relationships or formative relationships here on the channel where these people, and they don't feel desirable. They don't feel that they can pick up and carry on. They are emotionally suffering. They can't focus on their job. They can't focus on their profession. They can't focus on their school. This is tragic. I find this absolutely tragic. And it really pulls at my heartstrings that there's like suffering that could be prevented, that of this sort of created stress. Just sort of, to me, it sort of parallels like that thing, you know, who says you have the audacity to be able to burn millions of acres on the Amazon because you want to take those areas of Brazil or Peru and you want to illegally set up, cow farming so you can sell meat, you know, and whatever on this, in this illegally probably sanctioned market. I mean, do you see what I'm saying? Who feels that they have the audacity to do that? And like, I feel it's a similar way for the human spirit. So I have it's really concerning, especially for other people's I am. So we're going to kind of wrap it up here. So what does a lack of empathy do? And it makes you feel like, so here's your body. I know that this is very rough sketch, but what does it usually cause people to feel like? Okay, if you're, I'm unlovable. So that feels like instability. In other words, if you can't have love or eye contact or someone give you a high five, a hug, or whatever, eat with you or listen or help you learn a math problem or whatever, talk to you about how you're feeling about the pandemic or your job or what you want for your profession or your personal growth or spiritual growth or your hobbies. I mean, you're a living, growing organism being, you know, all the way, you know, you're continually growing and you're going to feel stunted. So lack of empathy, if you know, they're too busy, it basically feels like this. I'm not wanted. Cross you off the list. You know, but yet they might then do a little, oh, but you did really good. Let me hear about that such and such if you make me look good. And then they want you in, and then you're going to ignore and push down that little X, you know, that you thought that, you know, that they did. Or, you know, and then where else is that going to feel that in the body? Are you going to feel that in your stomach, in your guts? Are your hands going to get sweaty? Are your knees going to shake? You know, and what is that, you know, what does it feel like? You get choked up, you know, and if you can use that like with different language, in other words, this means like shakiness. Do your shoulders, you know, are they like filled in to the point where you feel like you're bracing up, that you have maybe a 30-pound chain that you have over your neck? Is that the burden you feel that you somehow have to do without for decades or without from your spouse? So it takes away from your I am. We're going to do a quick exercise here. Once again, we start with the I am. That is really the most foundational. I, which means within, am. And then where do you feel that? That's just, we're talking about an experience of how that resonates within your body. And if you did not have lovable, meaning smiles reflecting back to you, if you did not have this, so if they were yelling, raging, you know, you probably can't even see this. This is just really, but you know, you gotta smile. If you didn't have this looking back at you, they dissed you at the party, they dissed you, whatever, and you're not getting that. Instead, they're trying to control you with this, you know, your I am is going to be suffering, and you're going to feel more of this. I am hurt. I am shaky knees. This hurts. You're holding something in your body. That means you're holding a specific tension and a resistance to change. There's something you're not wanting to process or deal with. When even though dealing it with would be the very one thing that would set you free, even though it's so scary. What is an example? I mean, I could go on for a long time, but for example, you know, I am. So if you feel that, then I am, then, if you're this, I am lazy. I am not good enough. I am annoyed. I am irritated. I am anxious. I am missing something. I am without. I am petrified. I am scared to death. I am hurting here. I am dying. If something is wrong and I'm over, like, I don't like the way my life is going. It's this. And then when it could be, this is so simple, this. But what is the I am? So if you do not have that I am reflected back to you, that means your I am is centered around the negative. That projects a negative image for you moving forward, and it's only going to perpetuate the same into being. So I am happy. You are happy. I am at peace. You are at peace. I am good enough. You are good enough. I am lovable. You are lovable. I am worthwhile. You are worthwhile. I am interesting. You are interesting. I am important. You are important. I want someone to listen to me. I want to listen to you. So do you see how the reflection back and forth, it has a much different experience within the body. We're going to talk more about that. And I think it'll be a very healthy exercise to do that back and forth. Because if you're missing that reflection, then you can see where your I am is hurting or it's on shaky ground. We definitely need to work on that and get that stronger and reflect that back. And we're also going to talk about why is it worse to procrastinate? Because procrastination will keep all this in place. This is just such a rough, but procrastination keeps all of this in place. Where doing the exercise will bring more of the happiness, smiles, and lightness into place into your being. This is your buddy. Peace and harmony with you here today, and I hope these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and for goodness sake, please donate for more great tools, video, discussion, and support. And I really look forward to your comments. Thank you so much for sharing, and have a beautiful day. Love you.